Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 122 of How I Built It. Today, my guest is Brad Touesnard, the founder and CEO of Delicious Brains Incorporated. I'm a big fan of Brad and his work. They do some fantastic stuff in the WordPress space. You probably best know them for their plugin WP Migrate DB Pro, and incredible and invaluable tool if you are moving databases. I can't stress enough how much time that plugin in particular has saved me. Doing things the manual way versus doing things with WP Migrate DB or WP Migrate DB Pro is just so different. And we talk about a lot of things. We talked about SpinupWP, a relatively new project of theirs. We talked about doing things on iOS. We talked about projects that they launched that then didn't work out, and kind of why. We talked about a whole wide range of things, from development to running businesses, to helpful tools to help you be the best that you can be. So let's get into all of that with my interview with Brad Touesnard. Of course, first, here's a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Plesk. Do you spend too much time doing server admin work and not enough time building websites? Plesk helps you manage servers, websites, and customers in one dashboard, helping you do those tasks up to 10 times faster than manually coding everything. And let me tell you, I recently checked out their new and improved WordPress toolkit, and I was super impressed by how easy it was to spin up new WordPress sites, clone sites, and even manage multiple updates to themes and plugins. With the click of one button, I was able to update all of my WordPress sites. I was, again, incredibly impressed by how great their WordPress toolkit is. You can learn more and try Plesk for free at plesk.com/build. That's plesk.com/build. This episode is sponsored by our friends at Castos. Castos is a podcast hosting platform built specifically for WordPress. Their seriously simple podcasting plugin lets you manage all of your episodes and podcast RSS right from your WordPress site, but have your files hosted on a dedicated media hosting platform. If you use WordPress, this is by far the easiest platform that I have used for podcasting. I also really love how the Castos team takes a common sense approach to their pricing. You can create as many episodes and podcasts as you want, and you don't have to worry about how much storage you're using or bandwidth restrictions. And if you're like me and you already have a ton of episodes from an old host, they've got you covered. Castos will import all of your podcast content into their platform completely free of charge. It's literally one click of a button in your WordPress dashboard. I could not believe my eyes when I saw this in action. And it's stuff like this, which is why I built my own podcasting course on top of Castos. And they have put together a really special opportunity for the show today. You can get 50% off your first 3 months with the code BUILTIT19. That's BUILTIT19. Just head over to castos.com/howibuiltit to learn more. That's castos.com/howibuiltit. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of How I Built It, the podcast that asks, how did you build that? Today, my guest is Brad Touesnard, the founder and CEO of Delicious Brains and SpinupWP. Brad, how are you today?
I'm great, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. I'm glad you're feeling better. I know we had to cancel last week as we record this, of course. So I'm glad that you've gotten rid of whatever it is you had.
Yeah. I've actually been struggling with my health for the last few months, and I think I figured out that I added something to my diet a few months ago, and that's what it is. But it's something like I'm gluten free, and so gluten will like make me sick, that kind of thing. I'm not doing it because it's trendy or anything.
Right.
But yeah, it's one of those things where I was eating something that says it's gluten free, but there's something else in it that
Oh man,
must be bugging me. Because yeah, so yeah, I've been dealing with that for the last 3 months and finally figured it out. I think so, at least hopefully.
yeah, good. Well, I hope that you got into the bottom of it. I always worry about that, like eating something in my diet changing and then it making me feel terrible.
Yeah.
So,
You think software is complicated, but then, your own body is actually a lot more complicated than that.
yeah, absolutely. Like we can, we've created software, we can understand software, but and that's what we're going to be talking about today, right? Specifically about your new product, SpinupWP.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
So why don't we start with who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I am the, founder and CEO of Delicious Brains Inc. We have a couple of WordPress plugins, WP Migrate DB Pro and WP Offload S3, WP Offload Media now, because we rebranded it just a couple of months ago, because we're going after... it used to be a plugin just for offloading your media library, your WordPress media library to Amazon S3. But now we support DigitalOcean Spaces, and we're going to support what's it called, Google Cloud Storage,
nice.
with Sob, all the object storage providers. So those are our two main products, and then I've got a team of 8. Behind me as well. And we're a fully remote team. There's 4 guys in the UK. There's 2 in Pennsylvania and 2 in Ontario. And I myself, I'm in Nova Scotia. So
nice.
Yeah. And our newest product is called SpinupWP. And it's currently in beta. And it allows you to spin up a server that's fully optimized for WordPress, for hosting WordPress in just 10 minutes or so. It's it'll set up all the server software and configure it so that you can start adding sites to it after 10 minutes. So it's something that normally would take a few hours if you're doing it manually, just logging into the CLI and running commands. Mm-hmm. And we have the reason it came about too is we have a series of blog posts that one of our team wrote for our blog, and they do really well. We get a lot of traffic to those blog posts, and so that's one of the reasons why we thought of this idea, that this would be a good idea for us. So
nice. Yeah, I'm a big fan of your blog. I subscribe to your newsletter, and it's one of the few newsletters where I actually read what comes to my inbox. So this is really cool. And I kid you not, I just struggled with this sort of thing like last week. So you're definitely solving a problem that needs solving, which is very cool.
Mm-hmm. Have you used some of the other? So SpinupWP is very similar to Laravel Forge. Mm-hmm. And Server Pilot is another one. But they don't really cater to WordPress. I mean, Laravel Forge is specifically designed for Laravel, right?
Right.
And Server Pilot has traditionally just been for PHP apps in general. Although they've made some moves kind of in the last little while to be more WordPress. Okay. To do more for WordPress. But have you ever used either of those services?
No, I haven't. So I've used like the local ones like, VVV to kind of do it locally. But
right.
I mean, I just set up a Linode server because I'm trying to go to the iPad only lifestyle. And if I want to develop on the iPad, I need to connect to a VPS. And so, I went through the rigmarole on Linode of installing Ubuntu and installing Apache and then getting WordPress just there, but without any of the bells and whistles that I normally like to have in WordPress. So, and no WP CLI, I didn't install that either. So, so it's it's cool. This product seems like it would have saved me, like a couple of hours while I was sitting in the Starbucks trying to get this to work. So I was high-fiving myself in the Starbucks, like running Unix commands from my iPad. I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice. Where did you get this idea for running everything off on an iPad? Where does this come from?
So I listened to a couple of podcasts, which I'll be sure to link in the show notes. But the main one is Connected from Relay FM. Those listening to season 6, you might have heard Mike Hurley. He kicked off this season. He's the founder, but he's pretty much an iPad only in the iPad only lifestyle. His co-host Federico Vitici, also iPad only. And I say only, but like only is a little bit of quotes because they still do their podcast recording and editing like on their Mac Minis. So I'm trying to go iPad only when I'm traveling, pretty much. Like I want my iPad to replace my MacBook, and then I'll have the iMac Pro to do the video editing and podcast editing.
Right. I think Curtis McHale has some blog posts about that as well. I think I saw he posted about it. Yes,
I used his recommendations for development specifically as a starting point. I know he used DigitalOcean. Linode was running a promo when I got them, so I got like 4 months free or something like that. But it was basically like all of the apps that he recommended.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. So I really like this idea. You mentioned that you were blogging about this, and this was essentially how you realized this would be a good product for you guys to develop. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I've had guests on the show, like Justin Ferriman, talk about how he blogged about an LMS for WordPress like for 2 years before he built LearnDash. So, was that kind of like your market research?
Definitely helps. It's a really good way to plant that first seed to see, what's the uptake? How much traffic does that article get from Google, right? So we weren't when we published those series of blog posts, we weren't expecting anything, right? We were just we have this blog. What is it called? The treadmill, the content, the creation treadmill, where we're committed to posting every week. And so our team, actually one of the biggest problems our team has is coming up with ideas for the blog, what to write next. And so this was just one of those, those instances, right? But it turned into a series, and then the series grew to, I think, 8. I think we're up to 8 articles now. And they're pretty lengthy. And so it takes you through, starting at your Linode, or your DigitalOcean droplet or whatever it is, like firing that up and installing step by step all of the software you need to host WordPress efficiently, and at pretty high scale. Actually, we've done some benchmarking. So we have posts that benchmark how much traffic just a small VM can handle, and it's remarkable actually how much traffic a cached WordPress site can handle. If you heavily cache a WordPress site, I mean, you're really just serving static pages at that point, right? And so Nginx can handle that like without breaking a sweat, right? Yeah. So it can handle. We've gotten our posts to the top of Hacker News before and stuff, and our web servers have been fine with that. The problem would be if you're someone like Ticketmaster or something where you have to have the dynamic parts of your website serving like a massive influx of traffic, then things get a lot more complicated. But for 99% of websites out there, right? Hosting it on a VM, even like a 2 gigabyte of memory VM with 1 CPU core, that's going to be plenty for even if you end up on Hacker News by chance,
Yeah. Wow, that's great. That's a very good insight, because I think a lot of people do worry about performance. But first of all, if you're getting the kind of traffic that Ticketmaster is getting for your dynamic site, presumably you're making a ton of money, right? So you can
I would hope so.
Yeah, right. Second, it seems like Ticketmaster hasn't even solved that problem well. So maybe that's just a tough nut to crack.
It is. It is a very tough nut to crack. I think optimizing, it's still difficult to optimize database rights, right?
Right, yeah.
The only way to do that I know of effectively is called database sharding, which I've actually never done. I've only ever looked into, but never actually done it. But the basic concept is when you need to write to the database, depending on the data that's being written, it goes to this database server or a different database server or another database server. And so the writes actually gets kind of filtered off into different database servers. And there's a whole bunch of complexity that goes with that, though, as well. So, once you require that, I mean, you need a team. You need a DevOps team to manage that, and so. Yeah, most people are never going to get to that stage with their website, right? So.
Yeah, right. And just to maybe give a good analogy of what database sharding might be, it's almost like if I have, my daughter's big into these YouTube videos now where people are just like sorting like candy into the same color buckets. So it's almost like that, right? You have a red bucket and a green bucket and a blue bucket. And you're not just going to like dump a whole bag of M&Ms into the red bucket. It'll be hard to find the right color. So you want to put the red M&Ms in the red bucket and the blue M&Ms in the blue bucket.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a great analogy.
Cool. Well, thank you. That brought to you by my 2-year-old watching YouTube. So that's really cool. So this very popular blog series that I'm going to link to in the show notes as well. This is going to be a show note rich episode. What else did you do to kind of, as you set out to develop SpinupWP? What did that look like? I guess you have a big audience already, especially because of WP Migrate DB Pro. Is this basically the same audience you're talking to, or did you set out to build a whole other audience that you wanted to market to?
Yeah, we definitely leveraged that audience, but actually the first. First, just to go back to the kind of the genesis of this project, it was kind of an idea that we had kicking around. The member of our team, Ashley, who wrote these articles for our blog, he actually had the idea of making basically SpinupWP, and he actually built a prototype of it, but just kind of abandoned it at a certain point. And it wasn't until our retreat about 1.5 years ago, we were kind of in the car on the way to the airport after kind of at the end of the trip. And some of the guys were just talking about like, oh man, I wish there was like a WordPress version of, Laravel Forge. It's just, Forge is great and all, but it's, it just doesn't go that extra mile for WordPress. And, several other guys in the car were agreeing with this. And I'm like, this is like an idea. If you guys all need this and want this, then, I mean, you are the audience. You guys are developers,
right?
So then the more we thought about it, the more it made sense to do this. We have these articles that are bringing in customers from Google, and, there's our marketing problem, half solved. Right. So then the next step was to kind of get outside the company and talk to potential customers. And so what I ended up doing is scraping the contacts off of the comments from our blog posts. So those are all people that were interested in building their own servers using our tutorial. So, they should be pretty interested in this product, right? So we did a survey and sent it out to those people. And I think maybe some other folks from our audience, I can't remember if we took a subset of our audience and maybe sent them the survey as well. But anyway, we got, a good number of survey responses and very, very good positive feedback that this was a viable project to pursue. And we launched our beta, when was it? Probably 3 weeks ago now. And we've had really great uptake. We're actually accepting signups. So we're in like a paid period right now. It's not like a free beta.
Yeah.
So that's saying a lot that we've had like actual people coming in the door, paying us, and are still using the software. They're not churning out, So
yeah.
So pretty happy with where we're at this stage. So things are good.
This episode is brought to you by Pantheon. Starting a new project? Looking for a better hosting platform? Pantheon is an integrated set of tools to build, launch, and run websites. Get high-performance hosting for your WordPress sites, plus a comprehensive toolkit to supercharge your team and help you launch faster. On Pantheon, you get expert support from real developers, best-in-class security, and the most innovative technology to host and manage your websites. You can sign up a new site in minutes with a free account. You only pay when it goes live. That is my second favorite feature to Pantheon, only to the easy ability to create dev, staging, and live servers and push to GitHub. It's very easy to set those things up on Pantheon. So you can head over to pantheon.io today, again, to set up a free account. Pay only when it goes live. Thanks so much to Pantheon for their support of this episode and this season of How I Built It. I like that. Kind of the takeaway here is that you blogged about this thing you need. You also have a team of people who, for all intents and purposes, are dog fooding your own product, right? And then you worked with part of your own audience. I think people have a hard time, myself included, leveraging or building an audience to leverage. So I really liked kind of the things that you said there. Scraping the contact info from the comments, I like that a lot. People are commenting on these tutorial style posts, probably asking questions, trying to do stuff. You're telling them how to do it. They have problems with it, and then you're like, I have a solution to your problem. That's very like online course-esque, right? Where
right, exactly, yeah.
You teach an online course, and then you say, hey, I just taught you how to do it, but if you just want me to do it for you, like you can pay me to do it for you too.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
Cool. So let's get to the title question, which is, how did you build it? And I'm particularly interested about this from the standpoint of you're building a tool that is designed to work with all sorts of VPSs, right? So it's not like this is a thing that can just sit on top of Linode or just sit on top of DigitalOcean. So what did the compatibility look like? What did the development stack look like? You can get like super nerdy here. It was like super developer. Yeah, I would love to hear that.
Yeah, I can't get too technical anymore. I mean, I'm still a developer. I can still write code, but the reality is that I'm not, right? It's my team that's writing the code nowadays. And I'm just, I guess, making sure that everything stays on track and the trains run on time, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, we built it using Laravel. So that was the framework we're using. So we're still on PHP. I think we started working with Google Cloud because a previous product we built that we ended up shutting down, that was built on AWS and used auto scaling and Elastic Beanstalk and all that business. And our team was not big fans of that tech stack. It was cumbersome to use and just kind of janky is the way they described it. And so we decided to use Google instead to see if their stack was any better. And although it seemed a little bit better, it still wasn't. It wasn't what we were expecting. we felt it was a bit cumbersome to use. And the other thing is that our app, we don't think we need auto scaling. We probably won't need it for a really long time, if ever. So we decided just to go with good old DigitalOcean droplets. And so we have just one droplet running our app server, and then we have multiple worker servers to actually perform the tasks that are being requested from the app. So for example, if you want to create a new site on your server, that gets queued to a worker server, and then the worker server does the SSHing into your server and actually performs the tasks that need to be performed. And then you get the app still shows like a nice printout display of the commands getting executed and all that stuff.
Cool. So yeah. just to back up for a minute there, this is not like a thing that I download and install on like some fresh version of Ubuntu. This is all run. This is a SaaS, right? Like I log in and I say I want to spin up a WordPress server here. You
got it. Yeah, it's a SaaS app. So you just sign up online and plug in your DigitalOcean key. So you go to DigitalOcean, create a new API key, plug it in, and then you can choose what size droplet you want from our UI. The alternative to that, so right now, just in beta period, we just support that one provider at the moment. But we actually support every provider because we have a second option, which is custom server. So if it has an IP address and it's got a fresh Ubuntu 18 install on it, and then it'll work with SpinupWP.
Perfect.
So yeah, as long as we can get to it and it's running the software we expect, it should work. That includes like a local VM. Like if you have a local VM with an IP address, you could potentially point it at SpinupWP at it, and you should be good to go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it sounds like it could work for that, right?
Yeah, I've never tried it. We haven't tried it yet, but I can't imagine why it wouldn't work. I mean, like I said, if it has an IP address and we can connect to it, it should work.
Yeah.
So
well, those listening now. I presume by the time this comes out, somebody will have tried it. But if somebody hasn't, you can be the intrepid user who gives it a go.
That's right.
Cool.
Yeah, and if you do, please let us know about that. We'd love to hear about it because it's always interesting to hear from people who are using your product in atypical ways. You always get that from people. Like, you have this vision of like how the majority of your customers are going to use your product, right? And you're building for that. And then every once in a while, a customer comes along who's like using it for some crazy setup, and you're just like, oh wow, yeah, that's something I could never have imagined.
Yeah, absolutely. I can, and I've developed some software in the past, but nothing commercially really. But even when I first launched my online courses, I got like two pieces of feedback. One was that you need PayPal. Like this, I was like, I'll just do Stripe because it's easier. But people love having PayPal as an option. And the other was like, somebody said, hey, how come I have to take your course in order? And I'm like, why would you want to take my course out of order? Like, aren't you trying to learn something? But they just wanted to learn some specific aspect of Beaver Builder. And so I was like, apparently that's a common use case. So it's just very interesting. It is, like you said, it's very interesting to hear stuff like that.
Yeah. PayPal. PayPal's funny because it's a love-hate relationship. It's, people love it because they feel secure using it, and there's all kinds of reasons why they love it. And then everyone who accepts PayPal hates it.
Yeah. Yep.
On the other end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same with credit cards, I guess, too, though, really. Like people who use them love them, but the people who have to take them and get dinged all the fees, not such a big fan. I tried, because I know that, because I'm a business person, I try to use debit whenever I go out to eat or whatever, just because I know that the local businesses are getting dinged every time, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Most people don't know that, though. Most people have no idea that their credit card is actually charging the person that they're using it with, 2 to 3% of the bill, and they have no idea. right?
Right.
So it's like this dirty little secret the credit card companies have that somehow has remained outside the public sphere.
Yeah, that's so funny. Like, I never thought that people don't know that, but they must, right? And you know, credit card companies make money coming and going. They make money off people who can't pay their credit card on time, and then they make money off the people who are using the credit card to make money.
Oh yeah,
Whew, man,
they make money every which way.
Yeah, what a racket. With PayPal, I thought it was interesting to hear that there are a lot of freelancers who just kind of use PayPal as like fun money or like funny money, like not real. It's not real to them.
Right.
And I thought that was really interesting because that's not how I manage my money at all. As soon as I have money in PayPal that is outside my refund window, it is in my account, and I use my American Express card to pay for all of my business expenses.
Right.
Just, I don't know, to each their own, but that was also a weird use case to me.
Right.
So.
Are you going to WordCamp Europe in June?
I am, well, at this moment, I'm not, as we record this, but it's
sorry. I put you on the spot there.
Oh, yeah, no problem. That is it. It's in Germany this year?
Yes. So the reason I brought it up is because it's very apropos. So apparently, I've been told, I've never been to Germany yet, but we're going to be doing our company retreat in Berlin before WordCamp Europe. So apparently, a lot of German business do not accept credit card. So you have to go there with cash. You really do.
Wow.
Is what I've been told. But I have it under good authority that that's true. So, and I think that is one of the main reasons is that the German businesses they just don't accept the fees that the credit card companies require. So.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand it. I try to consider a cost of goods sold. I want to make it easy for anybody to give me money, but I totally understand it. And I guess if I do end up going, it's like right around my anniversary, so maybe I can convince my wife that it'll be like an anniversary trip for us.
There you go. That's great. That's a great idea.
Right? Absolutely. But I try to work the fee into cost of goods sold. But I am Italian, and so I always have cash on me anyway. That's a New York Italian stereotype, at least. So.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So, well, we're coming up on time. We've covered a lot of ground. And I'm curious to hear, this is a new product. So we've kind of talked about launch and stuff like that, but what are your plans for the future? You know, as we record this, you're still pretty much in beta, but it seems to be going really well. Do you have a roadmap of sorts?
We do actually. Yeah. So, we're still in beta, and we'll probably be in beta for another couple months at least. And the main reason for that is we've got a couple additional features we want to build before we officially launch to, our wider audience. So those features are Teams, support for Teams. Currently, you can sign up and you have your own personal account, but you can't invite anybody to collaborate with you on servers and share access to servers or anything like that. That's an important feature that we're going to add. Backups, even more important. We currently, you could always set up something yourself,
sure,
but we just don't have any backup feature built into the platform yet. So that's something we want to have for launch before we actually make a big push to let everyone know about the product. And then the other thing that happened was when we launched the beta, we actually discovered something that was completely in our blind spot that we did not anticipate at all. And that is having multiple SFTP users per server is actually very important to people, is what we've discovered. So, which it seems so obvious now in retrospect, because you can imagine someone, a freelancer or an agency, using our platform to host their clients' sites, and they would want their clients to be able to SFTP to the server and upload files or what have you. And so that's obviously something that we should provide. But we just completely blanked on that. I think maybe it was because we were looking at Forge and how Forge had things set up, and Forge doesn't have that. They don't have multiple users where you can, log into each site and upload files to each site. They're really set up for one app per server situation. But Server Pilot is more set up that way. They're set up for multiple. I think they do for each site that you install. They create a new user on the system, and that user has SFTP access, and they can upload files to each site. Is the way that they do it. So a lot of the customers that were on Server Pilot that were on our interest list, they immediately noticed that we didn't have that feature, and so we're in the process of building that at the moment. So we're really glad we did the beta.
Yes,
because it's the perfect time. It's a pretty major change to our architecture to be able to support that. So it's good to be able to do that during a beta instead of after launching to people. So once we get those three things out of the way, it's launch time. So probably definitely the first half of next year, hopefully the first quarter of next year. We'll be trumpeting.
Cool. Well, that sounds great. The idea of doing a beta program is it sounds like it's paying dividends for you. I think people wonder, why not just launch or whatever? And I think you have a very good use case for why do a beta program, especially because I think people who are doing the betas are probably going to be a little bit more vocal than the run-of-the-mill user, right? There are people who are more willing to give feedback, and saying it's a beta kind of puts that up front. Like, hey, this is a work in progress, and, we're going to take care of you as our beta users or whatever. So
yeah, we kind of mix the two paradigms of so there's the free beta. A lot of people do that. They tend to just have free beta, but then you don't really get to test whether or not people are willing to pay for your solution. So what we did is we just did a deep discount. So your first 3 months, you get half price for 3 months. So your first 3 months, half price if you sign up for our beta, and then we go from there. So at least then we know people are willing to trade dollars for this solution, and that it's not just a bunch of freeloaders. Getting on board.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it also, if someone's paying for it, they're more likely to use it too. Like I've signed up for betas that were free and then never used it because I wasn't committed. So
yeah, exactly. A previous product we launched, we did a free beta, and that's what we ended up with. We just had a bunch of people on it silently and just not giving any feedback. So that's a good point. That's another reason why we chose to do a paid beta this time.
Cool. Well, that's a great piece of advice for anybody who's looking to launch a product. Do a paid beta if you can. It's all obviously everything in development as it depends, but if you're weighing free versus paid, I think we have a few good pros for paid. As we wrap up here, I do want to ask you my favorite question, which is, do you have any trade secrets for us?
Trade secrets. I keep going back to mailing lists because I think they're so undervalued. Just starting a mailing list. So, well, first of all, you need to provide something of value to start your mailing list. So in our case, for example, we did the tutorial to set up to host WordPress yourself, right? So we had those articles, and then, as you got down towards the bottom, it would pop up and say, hey, are you interested in more articles like this or whatever, right? So you have to provide something useful. So write an article that does really well, but then capture email addresses. You have to build that email list, and then you can launch something. I'm guilty of building hobby projects in the past just because I love to build them, right? And that's fine. But once you get serious about wanting to start a business, you have to build an audience before you build the product, because there is no point of having a product and then hoping that people are just going to show up, because they won't, of course.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. That's the advice that I would give like 2 years ago, me, as I was launching my online courses, because I was just like, I'll just build it. It's a $50 course. People will buy it. Nobody will buy it. Like, nobody trusts me, and I don't have anybody to market to. So, yeah. 2 years ago, me would take that advice in a heartbeat.
And as an exercise, just think about all the businesses locally that you visit and stuff, and imagine if they had an email list and how that might affect your purchasing decisions with them in the future, right? So like if it's a pizza place, maybe you'd order pizza more often. If every week you got an email that said, hey, 12-inch pizzas are on sale this week or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much emphasis, especially local businesses, I find, to focus on social media, and they just ignore email entirely. But there's so much noise on social media that no one's really paying attention. So the opportunity lies in email. That's where people are paying attention, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, imagine like trying to have a conversation with the baseball stadium versus like the people like next to you on the train going to the baseball stadium or something like that. Like, exactly. There's just so much going on. Whereas if you're sitting next to somebody on the train, you have a better connection. I love that. Cool. Well, Brad, I really appreciate you taking the time. Where can people find you?
I'm on the Twitters at Brad T. Deliciousbrains.com is our website. And I blog there occasionally. And that's about it nowadays.
Awesome. Well, I will link that and everything else we talked about today in the show notes. Like I said, this is going to be a very show notes rich episode, so be sure to head over to howibuilt.it to get those. Brad, thanks again so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. My pleasure.
Thanks so much to Brad for joining me today. I loved his trade secret about mailing lists. It's something that I have been hearing since the very first few episodes of this podcast. Your mailing list is invaluable. And I have found that to be true. I have put some really great advice into motion lately with my mailing list, and I have seen it grow considerably. As I start to launch more of my own courses, I'm going to see exactly if this strategy pays off, but I am confident it will because I'm reaching the right people. So my question of the week for you is, what are you doing with your mailing list? Do you have one? Do you need to build it better? What's your strategy? Let me know by emailing me, joe@casabona.org, or via Twitter @jcasabona. I want to thank my sponsors for today, Castos, Plesk, and Pantheon. Their support means the world to me, and I deeply appreciate it. If you liked this episode, be sure to give it a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It truly helps people discover us, and I feel as we're reaching the end of season 6 here that the show has grown considerably, thanks in part to you, the listeners, giving ratings and reviews and sharing the episodes that you really like. So I deeply appreciate that. So with that, we'll end the normal episode and we'll continue talking about how I'm building out my podcast course. And over the last 2 episodes, I talked about building the course itself. And in the next 2 episodes, I want to talk about building the tech stack. So I went through a couple of iterations of the tech stack, right? So my course site started off as WPinOneMonth.com, and I intended to do actual in-person courses, in-person workshops. And I was living in Scranton, Pennsylvania at the time. I didn't have access to a big community of people, and I certainly didn't have the reach that I had online. And so that model didn't work out for me. But as a result, the first iteration of my online teaching website was really an events manager. And then as I decided to move more towards online courses, I looked at a few different tools like Sensei, which is an LMS that sits on top of WooCommerce. And I thought that would be a good route because I wanted to use WooCommerce. And I figured, why not have something that tightly integrates with WooCommerce? But as I started to use Sensei, and this is a few years ago now, I realized that it didn't do a lot of the things I wanted it to do, and that's when Justin Ferriman from LearnDash reached out. So for the LMS, I'm using LearnDash, and I'm a big fan of that. It does everything I needed to do and more, and it integrates with a whole bunch of other tools. And in the next episode, I'll talk more about the e-commerce side of things, but I am still using WooCommerce for a number of reasons. But the high-level overview of the tech stack of creatorcourses.com now is LearnDash, WooCommerce for e-commerce, Affiliate WP for the affiliate program, and BB Press for the forums to build that community aspect. And the theme is Academy Pro. So I will link in the show notes for this episode a place where I kind of list out all these tools, but that's the general tech stack. And people buy the courses through WooCommerce, they automatically get registered. When they're registered, I use an extension of LearnDash called LD Notifications to automatically email them. Inside of LearnDash, I build out each course. Each course has lessons and topics, and I try to keep the courses, like I said in an earlier episode, pretty focused. I try to keep them, around an hour and a half or 2 hours if I can. But LearnDash really helps me with that. And every course has a video component, and the videos are hosted by Vimeo. So Vimeo Pro specifically, because I can lock down the videos to a specific URL. So they can only be embedded in specific places, which is really nice. That's very important to me. So that's the general tech stack of Creator Courses. Now, in the next episode, I'll talk specifically about WooCommerce and everything that WooCommerce has to offer me and why I'm using it. But LearnDash, WooCommerce, BB Press, and Affiliate WP, and then Academy Pro by Studio Press for the theme. That's it for this episode. Thanks so much for listening. And until next time, get out there and build something.